You got to give it to Ricky. He got those Raiders up so high emotionally. Webby completely got the selections and the bench rotation wrong. I thought RTS was good on the wing, ran 200 metres.
Put him back at fullback.
Is Chanel the right partner for him? Maybe having a guy like Tanner Boyd there who's a bit more experienced.
DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
And the BLT Big League Tuesday Triple Treat wraps up with our good mate Zane The Warriorholic out of the Kapiti Coast. And I know that out of everybody I know, you have sat down and watched a replay of the Warriors versus the Canberra Raiders. I don't know any other fan that would put themselves through that. But for the purpose of this slot, for the purpose of your own Instagram and your own TikTok and your own YouTube, I know that you like to go back and you like to watch the game at least twice, just in case you missed anything, and also to put a different perspective on. So you kind of prick the balloon of emotion afterwards, let it ease back a bit, which is why I also like doing this on a Tuesday, mate, because it just gives us a couple of days to go, okay, right. The immediate aftermath of that game, I was sour as. And I know that you'd just flown back from Japan and you were jet lagged, so you probably weren't in a great mood. How do you feel today?
Oh, mate, it's still a little bit deflated. I've reached for the off button a couple of times. There live thinking I can't do this, but I thought, what's the point? Yeah, I'm glad I went back and watched it again, mate, to be honest. Like, watching live, I just felt like we weren't even in the game. No. We felt like we got owned in every aspect of it. But when I went back and watched it, you got to give it to Ricky. He got those Raiders up so high emotionally and basically gave them a license to just throw it around. And they had one of those days where 95% of what they threw stuck.
I agree with you.
The first try could have been millimetres short and RTS's fingers could have been a millimetre closer. There's so many woulda, couldas in the game that made it feel live, like we just were completely owned, but we weren't.
What those moments do is it's kind of like you ride your luck moments, isn't it? And they all seem to go their way. And just looking at a couple of them, he reaches out for the line, which was perhaps a bit inadvisable, and it just dots on. I mean, it's a blade of grass. Then, of course, the intercept pass, which was a 10 or 12-point swing at that stage, you take a couple of those. But when you get one on top of the other, and every one of these offloads around the back with four people on them, it's going, it's and it's all sticking. Yeah, it just does seem to accumulate, doesn't it?
It's just one of those days, mate. I think they beat pretty much anyone they were up against in that mood on the day. And I'd struggle to see them being able to deliver that on a weekly basis because you just would never get that many of those random like offloads or the bounces of ball. But one thing I did notice, man, they do have a lot of that tricky feet and strong upper bodies that bounced out of a lot of tackles. Things like, about 40-something missed and ineffective tackles from us.
That's
which
a lot.
Was a frustration.
That's a lot, mate. That's one every couple of minutes. You're not winning any game, if that's the stat.
Yeah, but I guess it's the way they were running, it's always going to happen because you can't just rush up and try and get them because if you do that, you leave holes. A guy like Capewell, he missed a whole bunch of tackles bouncing off. So there were things I definitely didn't like about it, but I feel better for watching it twice.
Okay, well, tell us what you like after what, because this is the thing. We can sit here and overanalyze and theorize and criticize, but, I mean, ultimately what we've got to do is somehow glean something from it that you can take to the Manly game and go, okay, it's only the first game of the season. Okay, you're allowed the odd dud game, and there will be others throughout the year. We know that. But give me two or three things that if you haven't, thought of them yourselves, Warriors fans, you can sit there and go, okay, right, that's good.
And that was a struggle. I think first thing I'm going to put in perspective is I think Webby completely got the selections and the bench rotation wrong. They obviously put Mitch Bard in at 13, Jackson in at prop to try and tie up that middle. They knew it was going to be confrontational, but they couldn't quite do that, and that really limited Mitch's meters. And then they overplayed Jackson, so he got burned a couple of times. But, I mean, he had a big game. So had they stuck with the tradition of playing Clark first and Jackson coming off the bench with Walker, it may have been different. But I thought RTS was good on the wing.
Yeah.
Ran 200 metres.
Put him back at fullback.
No, I don't think so. Like, not at the moment. We need that one wing. We don't have Dallin. We don't have that big meter eater on the outside there. I'd be much more keen to see Tane Tuapicky go to the back. I still think he offers a little bit more attack. He's a better ball player. He's a bit better scrambler
And
than
put Chance
Chance.
on the other wing, you think?
Well, and then it gets convoluted because I don't think he's a wing, so maybe you got to put him in at centre and,
Yeah, right.
and put Adam Pompey or Ali Laatoa on a wing. But I feel like we're just trying to find a place to fit three fullbacks in, which is exactly the problem the Titans have got at the moment. That's one of the concerns. But I also noted like the Fox commentators and a lot of fans all bagging the heck out of our halves. It was only a week before that they were the next coming.
Yeah, there you go.
This is their first NRL game playing together. Are we going to get into the likes of what the Knights and the Titans have done these past couple of years where you rotate your halves every week? You can't do it.
No. Look, we all said right before the start of the season, mate, that we got to give these guys some game time to get it right. And Kempy was on the show earlier and he suggested half a dozen games. I think half a dozen is probably enough. I think that's fair. Before you start looking at going, okay, we must make changes. Obviously, injury will, enforce will change that, that argument. But just in terms of these guys, look, it's like, let me use the cricket analogy. I mean, somebody has a few failings at the top of the order. Well, it's the easiest thing to do is go, right, bring somebody else in. Are they going to come right? You've picked these guys to play because you believe in them. Believe in them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Luke Metcalf, he's 26, but he's only played 30-something NRL
That's right.
games.
He's had a couple of terrible
and we all
years
know
with
that
injury.
a halfback won't reach their peak until they're up over 100. So you take a choice as there's no other genuine halfback out there that we can go and recruit. There's no one in the market. So you can chop and change around and hope that one of them works, or you can give it to a guy who's clearly got the talent, he's delivered it on certain stages, and just trust it'll eventually come right here. Is Chanel the right partner for him? Maybe having a guy like Tanner Boyd there, who's a bit more experienced with a bit
love
better
him,
kicking
don't you?
game.
You got a big reps on him, mate. It's like your hooker who you love too.
Well, the thing is with Tanner, you just don't know.
Yeah.
Like he has got a great kicking game, but he could come in and struggle like he did at the Titans. Or you watch his junior footy, he was a great running player. He's got outstanding speed, but it's just such an unknown. And who were his first choice halves? Was Tanner one of them until he got the Achilles injury?
Okay. All right. And just in terms of, the backline just didn't show anything at all because, again, we were going backwards. We just never got any good ball, and that means your halves aren't doing it, and that means the outsides aren't doing it, and that means you rush passes and throw passes, and that makes mistakes and everything. So, again, when you looked at it the second time, though, and you take out the ifs and buts and maybes and coulda, woulda, shouldas, what did you see that gives you confidence going into the next round against Manly in a couple of weekends' time?
I mean, I felt like Wade Egan. I don't like to be critical of anyone because that was a good team loss that everyone struggled. But I felt like with his experience, he could have been controlling the direction a little bit better. A lot of his passes were going high or behind the guys, and that just gives that fraction of a second. They had one of the Raiders' backs was coming up quick every time. So if that ball's just slightly above your head, our playmakers just rush. They're doing everything. The other thing I noticed was a bit odd is on the left-hand side, Pompey was standing really, really deep. And I don't know why. He was obviously he was deep every time. So it felt like our ball player was waiting for him to get to the ball. So if we can get that timing a little bit better, and we saw how well it clicked against the Storm. Granted, that was a reserve grade backline, but there are hopes there. But yeah, it's such an unknown for me. I think it's such an anomaly. Like I need to see us come out against Manly. These guys have got pride, particularly our senior forwards. They got owned, and they know that. They'll be embarrassed. Can they come out in front of a sold-out Mount Smart Stadium and actually use that emotion for the good, or does it overwhelm them again? And if it does, like we've said, then we've got to go to the Roosters, and all of a sudden 3 in a row down.
Let's not go there yet. Okay, let's just stop at the Manly game. I think it's important just to look at the next one rather than the one after that and the one after that. So despondency to start with, and then what happens after that? Then you start thinking, okay, well, I've got to pick myself up here and act like an adult, and then you go back, you have another look at the game. So how are you feeling right now?
I mean, I'd feel a lot better if it was Teamless Tuesday for these guys and they're playing Manly on the weekend, so you don't have to wait around. But all I'll do is encourage a lot of other fans there to the Jersey flag, the under-21s and the reserve grade start this weekend. Both playing Canberra, actually, so we get a chance to get a bit of redemption. But I need to see how some of these guys who are just fringe behind these players are stepping up. How does Marty Martin react? Does he, kick stones, or does he come out there and cut and hopefully with Tanner Boyd and destroy it and put genuine questions in Webby's mind?
Good call.
How do young guys like C.L. Carley step up? That's what I really need to see, because I feel like we've got a bit of depth there, but I need to see them really step up and put pressure on these top players. Maratania Kore, Kurt Capewell didn't have their best games. They haven't had their best games throughout the preseason. So do we give a guy like Leka Alasima or Jacob Laban the start if they don't perform? That's what I want to see. So bring on the weekend.
All right, okay, you're already giving us a few reasons already to get a little bit excited. See, that's the whole point of this, isn't it?
Oh, I tell you, you can't get too depressed after, half of the teams lose round one.
They do. Yeah, that's right. And I look at, I'm watching Man United get knocked out and lose every week and 15th in the table, mate.
Oh,
so,
that made me feel better when I heard that news. I thought, Jesus, Marty's going to be way more depressed than I am.
Well, exactly. So look, Manly, let's look forward to Manly. And a win against Manly, we won't be thinking too much about Vegas, right?
No, that's it. And it has to be a solid win where we come out and do what we intend to do. We know guys like Jazz are going to be out there trying to disrupt us, trying to annoy us. They've got a big pack, but if we can control their pack, their fast backs don't get as much ball going forward, it gives us a chance. And I do believe we've got the physical ability in our forward pack to match anyone out there. We've just got to use them in the right way. So I don't think I'm going to go to the game now. I'm going to sit home and absorb that. And then if we play well, I'll go to the next home game.
Always fantastic talking to you, mate. Nice and positive, nice and happy. Keep that up. Okay, it's going to be a long season.
I wouldn't say happy, but I'd say I'm trying to find a balance in life.
DSPN.